Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a question that came in customer service, and this one comes from Leroy, and he says, Dear Serge, I began working with your swing principles about 2 years ago. I have been able to play and enjoy golf again. I am most grateful for that. I have noticed that more professionals are using and promoting your theory. I recently watched some videos by, I'm just going to say, the gentleman who teaches what they now call square to square. He is advertising it 3/4 limited turn, and so that has some of my theory, but it doesn't have all the fine points that make the peak performance golf swing. Because first off, square to square is not the correct way to take it back. It's to find the way your arms are designed to move, and then all the other finer nuances about exactly defining limited turn, exactly what vertical is, how we transition, swing to the finish, swing up through the ball, and hit everything else. They don't have all of those finer points that I've gotten through all these years of studying with the experts. Dr. René Armstrong, who's my orthopedic surgeon I've studied with since 1982 or 83, somewhere there. Henry Rifle, my engineer, mathematician, and all-around physics guy and everything else, who unfortunately, died last year. But I have some other physicists and engineers I work with, and other orthopedic surgeons I work with, OTs, PTs, and other biomechanical studies I've been involved in. I've done 2 myself, and we're presently looking at 2 other ones that one came out about 4 years ago, and another one just was recently released, and it's got some great news in it, and hopefully we'll be bringing that information to you soon. And these last couple have been done where they just strictly have been studying about rotational golf swings. All right, so in this case, he's talking about that square to square swing, which looks a lot like us, but it isn't us. And even, it's amazing how many other swings, even rotational swings and other swings, are advertising themselves they can't use a limited turn and 3/4 if they're teaching big turn and parallel. So they're not going to use those, but they like to use a body-friendly stuff. And if it's got a wider stance and a big turn, I think, as most of you know, you got here by Googling something like body-friendly swing or less pain swing or something like that. So we know, and you know, that those aren't correct when they say that. So he says, my main problem is poor hand-eye coordination. I don't make good solid contact on a majority of my shots. When I do, I love the results. Is there anything I can do to improve this deficiency? I watch the pro golfers bounce a ball off their club head effortlessly. I could never do that. I know I will never be 100%, but I sure would like to improve this facet of my game. I really enjoy and look forward to your daily videos, and I'm watching for your next school in Central Florida. Thanks, Roy in Longwood, Florida. Okay, yeah, it's sometimes it can get a little tough trying to bounce a ball off the club. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you've seen the guys, and I'm sure you probably saw that commercial with Tiger Woods where he picks the ball up and bounces it around like this all kinds of times, and he goes up like that and catches it up there like that and does it a little bit better than me. I used to do it a lot better, but I don't practice that much anymore. A lot of assistant pros who have to spend a lot of lonely time in the golf shop, like especially when it's closing, they got the last 2 hours till close and there's not many golfers coming through. They're doing a lot of stuff like that to learn how to do that, and you notice that Tiger Woods did that commercial and did it pretty good. So yeah, there is some eye-hand coordination to that, and it's also hitting it. But I'm gonna go here and say that I don't really think it's eye-hand coordination for you. I think it's just too much body movement. And why can I say that? Because all the private lessons I give with peak performance students, and especially at the golf schools, what's the number one thing I see? So that's the number one thing Dave Seaman and Derek Hardy and Greg McDonald and Tom Lineberger and all of our certified pros see and all our certified fitters see. Y'all are thinking you're doing the swing, but you're a heck of a lot better than what you were, but you're probably still got a long way from getting the true peak performance golf swing. And by that I mean, what do I keep seeing? I have seniors come to me and say, well, I'm not supple and I'm not flexible and I just hitting the ball terrible and blah, blah, blah. And what do I see? They're making 90-degree plus turns. And they just told me they're not supple and flexible. They're making 90-degree turns. The club is getting the parallel or close to parallel or beyond parallel. They're way back in the sacred barrel ground, and they think they're limited turn and vertical. All right? Or many times it's not vertical. As well as, because normally if you're getting laid off, if you're making that big turn and getting deep, the club is down, it's down way laid off and it's long. And so they're sensing it. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, yeah, I'm preloaded heavy right, and they're standing like this. And they're not anywhere near it. So what our mind thinks and feels is not necessarily what's really happening. That's why it's so good to be able to just get out in your backyard. I mean, right now I'd be in the sun if it wasn't for that tree right now, because that big one right there, and then some of these right here that's covering the back porch. And so I'd be in the bright sunlight. Nothing better than standing with the sun at your back and kind of see where you're at. And so preloaded heavy right, I'm standing here. If I close my eyes, what I tell a lot of folks that are kind of standing like this, I say, close your eyes, and which way can you move the top of your sternum 1 inch and pick the other foot up? And people stand here and they think they're preloaded heavy right, so they try to go this way. And then, holy cow, and then they get back to where they were and they go like that. They don't even have to move an inch and they can pick the back foot. I say, holy cow, I'm not preloaded heavy right, I'm preloaded heavy left. All right, so that means you're playing in front of the ball. Then we got the people who think they're staying relatively still. They're keeping their right knee quiet. And so they're making a golf swing, and here's what I see. And I still see that. Well, if this foot's coming up and coming in like this, what do you got? Most golfers, if you truly look at your left knee and move it, most golfers cannot move your knee more than 1 inch before it's starting to pull this hip. So if you're moving it more than 1 inch, this knee pulling 1 inch is very likely pulling this hip down, pulling you into reverse tilt, and you're going back and forth like this. You're losing your height, and you got to come up. Then you're going to have everything from chunks to thin tops, to thins and tops, okay? Rights and lefts, everything. So that's too much movement, too much turn. The odds are, when you hit it solid, it's when you stayed relatively still, or you luckily did what? You just, all the things lined up perfect, and you got back, everything that you might have changed, you got back to just perfect. All right? So what is it? So what's the issue here? What is the first secret? And the reason why, as you know, I call my secrets the 5 secrets, because they're secrets until you know what they are. After you know what they are, they become rules. Rules are to live by. If rules are correct, and you break them, then you start having problems. And so the 5 rules are, the first rule is, golf is a game of angles. The fewer, the better. And the 2 most critical angles in the golf swing are the wrist, especially the forward wrist, and the knees. You start changing your knees, you're in trouble. I created a new surgeon a while back for the knees. The knees are the bees. If you move them too much, you're going to get stung. Keep them level. The knees are the levelers and stabilizers. You keep them level, you can stay level. So right off the bat, what I'm going to say to Leroy here is, take a good look at, if you can, videotape your swing, or get out in the shade, put the sun behind your back, and watch your head. If your head is not staying pretty much dead still from here to impact, except for maybe just going back a fraction, backing down, that's the dipsy doodle. Because once you get up here and do the proper bump, your head, the spine angle tilt, as Dr. Armstrong calls it, secondary spine angle tilt, your head goes backwards, and that's what allows us and gets us in the position where our arms straighten out the impact. It goes back and down a little and then up, so it's like a comma. That's what I call the dipsy doodle. That's the only slight movement you should have. But relatively, from takeaway to impact, your head should stay pretty much dead still. But if your head's going down, or going out, or going up, going back and forth, and all this other stuff, if you see your knee moving any more than about an inch, and even see this knee starting, and remember, if this knee's going this way, that one's going back, and so you're pistoning this way now, and this what? The piston's going to go back the other way. Here, if it stays level, it stays level. Okay? So check your knees out, check your head out, and I guarantee you that more than anything, you probably got too much movement in your body, and you just got to pinpoint where it's at. It's likely going to be from the ground up, meaning that if this is moving, it's pretty hard to have a good posture and move your head a whole lot where it's going to get out of position. It's going to mean somehow you're moving something closer to the ground, which would be your feet and your knees. And then everything else starts to move because your whole body is an interconnected network of muscles and bones. So start checking all of that stuff, and I think that's where you're going to see your problems are. And most people, once the knees move too much, that's going to allow too much turn, which means the club is going to start going, and too much turn is going to get the club deep in the sacred burial ground and longer, and then that's going to allow more tilting, especially when you get back here and your arm sort of starts hitting your chest, and you can start reverse tilting, and then what? Boom, boom. For every action is a reaction. Okay? And so that's just historically what we see in golf schools. And so just think about it. If you find yourself making these movements, as we point out to people and students at schools and in private lessons, and you're hitting the ball consistently much better, but anywhere nowhere good as it should be, and you're still making that much movement, just think how much you would have had before that, and you started trying to make less movement to limited movement, how much you would have had before. And that's why in many cases you had those achy backs and your shots were much worse, because in the end, what's golf all about? Good misses. He who misses best wins. And the person who misses best and has better misses is the one who has less movement. All right? So the knees of the bees, keep them very level, keep them stable, and the limited turn, and start doing a true peak performance golf swing. I think you'll be in good shape. So check yourself out with the sun or videotape yourself, and let's get down to fewer angles. Secret number one, golf's a game of angles. The fewer the better, and you start hitting the ball much more solid straight, hitting more consistent golf shots, and shooting those lower scores. That's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.